And then even to think that, we're in 2020 now, so this is 15 fucking years later.
It's 25 years later.
Oh God, you're right.
Oh my! I was like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, it's 25 years
God,
later.
you're right. I forgot about 2000 to 2010.
Because I thought of 95, I was like, I wasn't fair.
Yeah. Well, hey there, and thanks for stopping in to Night Shift Video. My name is James, and tonight I am joined by my co-host,
Josh.
And this is Scary Movie Monday.
It is.
I love Scary Movie Monday. It's it's become something I really look forward to every week.
For sure.
So last month was February, and I had kind of already made the decision to do Italian horror before I had realized, like, oh, it'd be cool if we started doing like a series of movies, and like throughout the month we can watch like a theme and then discuss that theme when we're done.
Yep.
And it kind of works out good that way. But I had already started watching Italian movies, so I was like, oh, February we'll just watch Italian movies. And then I'd been wanting to do sort of an episode or a series of episodes kind of about African Americans in horror and other, people of black cultures in horror. And then I was like, oh shit, I probably should have done that in February for Black History Month, but I didn't. And so we're going to do it in March instead.
Yep.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
So we're
no one else has March. I think we're good.
I think March is also supposed to be like Women's Month or something like that. I don't know. I heard something on SNL. And then what was it? Oh, that's the other thing too. In the horror community, like on Instagram and stuff, they do February as Women in Horror Month, and like every day in February they talk about. I know, and I don't think that either one of these are bad things. Obviously, like, I think equal representation for everyone is a good thing. So like, but it just seemed odd that in February for the horror community we're only celebrating women, whenever like the rest of culture we're celebrating black culture, and it's just like, why don't we just do it all like the same, and then we'll do women a different month for horror movies? Like, I don't know. Whatever. They're both good things. So we just jumped in basically straight into the deep end tonight. There's a couple different movies that I had in mind, and I ultimately went with this one because I wanted something that was familiar and that also I don't know. Some of the stuff that I have on the list is kind of deeper cuts, and I wanted to start with something a little more well known. So tonight we watched Tales from the Hood from 1995, and it's honestly, I haven't seen it in a while. I've seen the second one much more recently because it just came out. It was either last year or the year before. And I think in my mind I was conflating the two a lot because there were multiple segments I was waiting for in this movie that didn't happen. I'm like, oh, that must have been in the second one. I just getting them confused in my brain. Anyway, we'll start with the back of the box. It's good back of the box. Welcome to a hood of horrors. It's a place where your worst fears have come to life. A place where it's hard to tell nightmares from reality. A place where you will discover tales from the hood. Stack, Ball, and Bulldog arrive at a local funeral parlor to retrieve a lost drug stash held by the mortician, Mr. Sims. But Mr. Sims has other plans for the boys. He leads them on a tour of his establishment, introducing them to corpses. Even the dead have tales to tell, and Mr. Sims is willing to tell them all. And you'd better listen, because when you're in the hood, even everyday life can lead to extraordinary terror.
It's so good.
It's written really well. Yeah. I really love it.
The font's good.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh.
It's classic.
Heck, even the Tales from the Hood looks almost like the title for like a Super NES game.
Oh yeah, like Castlevania.
Yeah. Early digital.
It's so good. All right. Two Tales from the Hood.
Tales from the Hood.
All right, and we are back with our thoughts on Tales from the Hood, 1995.
Good year.
You know, it was a good year.
Oh, okay.
It was a good year. But it wasn't 96. 96 was better.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. So there's a lot of trivia in a movie like this simply because it's an anthology. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of actors in movies that are anthologies because you have so many different stories to tell, and there's usually 3 to 4, sometimes even more than that, actors in each scene. And it's just like, it can be really crazy because a lot of the trivia is like, oh, so-and-so is also in this movie, and they did this, and then they did that. So I'm not going to get into any of that because that's just really confusing and not super necessary information. If you're really interested in that, you can find that on the IMDb page. There it is. So this movie was produced by Spike Lee, and I am a huge Spike Lee fan. I love pretty much everything that he's done. I do understand how for some people he could be an acquired taste, but only whenever he gets really out there. This is one of those movies that gets really out there at times, but there's enough. It's an anthology, so there's enough shorts that kind of reel it back in that, like, you know, you can enjoy the whole package. And yes, you said it as soon as it ended. We have a special place in our heart for anthology movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, obviously, this is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
But even the ones that are not quite as good, like, there's just still something about them. It's super nostalgic and just super great. And maybe part of it is because if there's a short that you don't really like or doesn't really resonate with you, you know it's going to be over soon, and maybe you'll like the next one. Maybe it is just that. But I don't know. We watched Nightmare Cinema last year, which was another modern anthology that we really enjoyed as well. And I want to do more anthologies.
Well, I mean, last year we watched Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I'd seen that. Just like tonight was the first time I've seen this.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, oh yeah, the anthology thing is really great.
It's good, and it's great for horror because it's Tales from the Crypt, it's Twilight Zone.
Yep.
It is Are You Afraid of the Dark? It is they're campfire stories.
Yeah.
You know, it's hearing a bunch of spooky tales all told at one time, and like the little parts in between, maybe, you know, holding the thing together. Sometimes are good, sometimes are bad, but like it's a different type of storytelling, and it's a type that I really enjoy. I think we've all kind of grown to really like them.
Yeah.
And this movie had a budget of around $6 million. It ended up grossing right around 12, or just under 12, so pretty good return. Yeah. The thing about Tales from the Hood is I think it did much better in the home video market, obviously. Like, this is 1995. This is kind of classic, like, video store material.
Blockbuster heyday.
Yep. This is like and it's the perfect type of movie for that too. Like, this was something that I obviously in 1995 was way too young to have seen in theaters. But if I was with some friends, not even in 95, but like if I was with some friends in like 2002 and we went to Dave's Video, shout out to Dave's Video, Winchester, Indiana, or Milton's Tanning and Video. Actually, that was the spot that we liked better because it was a shorter walk. Milton's Tanning and Video, which I believe is the only video store left in Winchester. I think they're still open. This is something that we would have pulled off the shelf for sure. And you know, it's one of those things that, like, there is some really heavy segments.
Yes.
There's some really fun segments as well. And I think that with a movie like this, you're kind of guaranteed to get into that territory. And that's probably where we're going to be most of this month, with this kind of being our topic and our theme.
Yeah.
So I think the thing about Tales from the Hood, though, is that it did so much of what Get Out was doing. And I don't want to belittle Get Out by any means, because it's a great movie. I freaking loved it. I think that it did change the game for modern filmmakers. And like we have seen in the years since 2016 and Get Out releasing, we have seen so many more people of color and even other types of
other
cultures.
colors.
Yeah, like there's been so much more diversity in horror since Get Out.
Yeah.
And I mean, some things are not that great, or I don't even want to say not that great, just different. So like Ma, like we didn't watch Ma, but it clearly wasn't meant to be like this big, deep Get Out type movie. Mm-hmm. It was like this kind of like a little bit more rushed out the door creepy horror movie, and like those are good too.
Right.
Even if they're not as critically acclaimed, like there's still merit to those. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we're seeing people of color doing all types of different horror movies now, whereas 10 years ago, if anyone made one, it was probably one specific type.
Yeah.
I
mean, there's a reason why in like the early 2000s going on for a while, there was the token black guy who died, and that's just how it was. That's how they were represented. That's how they were in movies, and that was it.
Yep.
And it was
most of 90s horror movies have a token black character, and they usually die first.
Yeah, and then when a movie would not have that happen, it was either used as almost like an anti-cliche.
Yeah.
Like, oh, haha, we made one live.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Which is almost worse.
Yeah. Like, okay, you're aware and you perpetuate it.
It almost feels more dickish to like poke fun at the trope. I don't know. But yeah, that's totally a thing. And in the late 90s, early 2000s, like pretty much every horror movie was doing that. And so I'm actually really excited. When we get later in the month, we're going to do an episode of the Tales from the Crypt movie, Demon Knight, which is really said to be the first person of color as a final girl in any horror movie.
Interesting.
And so I'm really excited. And
cool.
it's Jada Pinkett.
No way. Really?
Yeah. Ooh, I'm super stoked about it. Yeah. I think it's going to be a good movie. Yeah. I've never seen it. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, we're going to get into that later. But yeah, back to this. Like I said, like when you watch something like Get Out and it has such a big kind of social impact, like this movie was saying some of the same things. It was doing some of the same things.
There was kind of a topical, literal thing in each of the stories.
Yep.
Sometimes it seemed maybe a little heavy-handed, but at the same time, I think sometimes when you're doing that, you almost have to make it a little bit of a caricature to have it land. Because sometimes
it's true.
Subtlety is lost on a lot of people.
It's true. We did an entire series of podcast for the Jordan Peele produced Twilight Zone, and I don't know if you didn't end up watching any of that, right? Because it was on ABC. It was on ABC All Access, and nobody else wants to pay for it.
There was some of the. Sometimes I would listen to you, even though I hadn't watched it.
Right.
But no, I watched the first one, The Comedian, and that was it.
Yeah, because that was the one that they made free. So a lot of people came against that, saying that at times that felt heavy-handed and stuff like that. And I think that new Twilight Zone series feels so much similar to Tales from the Hood. And I kind of got to a place where I was feeling that way at first, but then there was part of me that was like, always trying to be self-aware and like, why does this make me feel that way? Why am I being defensive? And I don't necessarily think that it was, but I got to a point where I'm like, you know what? If this is how heavy-handed we have to be now, because people will not pick up on the subtleties, like that's sad, but okay, fucking do it. And like I feel like that's Tales from the Hood in a nutshell of like, yes, there are times where it feels like we're shoving this imagery in your face. I mean, quite literally, is the second to last one, right? Like whenever they're doing the reform thing. Yeah, second to last one. They're literally shoving this imagery in his face, which in turn means it's getting shoved into our face as the viewer. And like, and then even to think that, we're in 2020 now, so this is 15 fucking years later.
It's 25 years later.
Oh, God, you're right.
Oh, my God. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, it's 25 years later.
God, you're right. I forgot about 2000 to 2010.
Because I thought of 95, I was like, I wasn't fair.
Yeah. This is 25 years later, and we still have to be just as heavy-handed for anyone to walk away feeling anything.
Yeah.
And it's really, really sad, and it's really disappointing. But the movie itself, it's a very well put together anthology. It has so much fun. The Clarence Williams III, the guy who's the like mortician, Mr. Sims, which turns out he's not mortician, he's Satan.
He's someone far more diabolical.
His character is so much fun. Like, he's creepy as hell, but he's still so much fun, which is what you always want from that crypt keeper type, you know, that middle character who's holding everything together, the projectionist and Nightmare Cinema. Like, you always want that type of character, and he does it so well. And then, like, we see just incredible performances from, like, you were the first one to catch David Alan Grier.
Yeah.
Like, basically the only serious role he's ever had. Like,
I mean, he was excuse me.
Yep.
He was in what was the Major Pain, right?
Yep.
He was the dentist guy, and I love that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many, like, he had a TV show that didn't last. But he's a guy that you've seen everywhere and you know who he is.
And he's known for his comedy.
But I can't name anything else he's in.
Right. Well, he was one of the guys on In Living Color for a while.
Yeah, that was kind of his big thing.
Yeah, but yeah, this is just, like, you know, a really serious role, and I would say it's hard to say that. I want to say his was the heaviest, maybe because it hit the most home for me, because it's just the most realistic up front. Whereas some of the other ones even have a little bit of, like, the sci-fi aspects thrown in and stuff, but then, like, even in the end, though, like, the end of his segment, you just get, like, so much good gore and effects. Like, that's something that I didn't really expect from this movie, is getting such good practical effects.
Yeah.
So the basis for that short is there's this kid at school, and he's kind of getting bullied, and then he goes home, and you end up finding out David Alan Grier is his dad, and, like, he's abusive, and it's not a good situation for the son or the mom at all. He's not very unhealthy. But the kid has, like, harnessed this kind of, like, magic ability, I guess, to be able to, like, manipulate things if he draws them. If he draws something he's afraid of, and then, like, rips up that paper, like, physically something happens to that person. And so he had been drawing this monster, which was a stand-in for his dad. And then when his dad's going off on a tirade, he starts folding that paper in half, or not in half, but just folding that paper at different increments. And we literally see David Alan Grier's body being folded and crumpled and twisted. And, like, it's fucking cool.
It's really cool.
It's so cool.
Really cool.
Oh, man. What were some other just, you know, bits or segments or any of the specific shorts that kind of stood out for you?
So during the I think it was the second one, or maybe the third one, with Corbin Burnson, as the former KKK guy who was running for governor.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just really enjoyed that, like, the painting symbolism, and then that each time you realize that there was more danger in the house when one was missing. Yeah. And also, when he was hitting, we all kind of said something. When he actually hit the painting with, like, the broom, or the flag.
The flag,
the American flag. Like, it started to bleed. And that was just, we all went, oh, that was kind of cool. It was a very cool, not even effect. Like, it's not a difficult effect.
Yeah, it was just a
cool
choice,
image. And, I mean, that was really fun. It was fun to see him in, I guess, a different role than what I've seen him in the past 10 years.
And just kind of like a you know, the tiny thing chasing and stalking and attacking normal sized people will always be a good horror trope. It's Chucky, it's Puppet Master, you know, like, and probably you could tie it as far back to fucking Gulliver's Travels, like, you know, like, it's that same idea, and it's always good. It's always good to watch.
Yeah. I mean, another one which I would say was I hesitate saying good. It was meaningful. Like when the cops are beating up
Fuck, man.
Morehouse, the guy, like it's very, very brutal. And
Yeah.
it was in my stomach, like I just get that weird pit, like
Yeah.
I shouldn't be seeing this. This is terribly wrong.
Yeah.
Why isn't someone doing something? It was just it elicited that emotion, and
Sure.
it was really good.
Yeah, it's portrayed really, really well, and like that's one of those things that I can't believe this movie did that in 1995. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we're not too far removed from like the LA riots. Like, it's just intense. It's really fucking intense, and it was so topical at the time, and it's still topical today.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's powerful, and it's powerful in a bad way, obviously, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
I want to say it's in a good way because like awareness and like knowing that these things like this do happen is a good thing, but like it's hard to watch. It's really tough.
Yeah.
And I guess honestly, like I said, I'd seen Tales from the Hood 2 much more recently, and it still gets into those areas for sure, but I think it definitely let itself be a little bit more fun than this one did. And I guess, like I said, like it's just been so long since I've seen the original that like I wasn't expecting it to get quite as heavy as it did at times.
I have one more cool image, but I'll let you pick one or two before I say it.
Oh, go ahead.
It was during the end of that same one with the political activist Morehouse, when the cop gets like pinned on the wall,
Yeah.
basically crucified, the symbolism, and then has all the syringes stuck into him, hypodermic needles.
Yep.
And then his body turns into the painting on the back.
Into the painting. That was really
It
cool.
was really cool.
That was really cool. And, you know, the graffiti, the painting, and everything, that reminded me a lot of Candyman, which I believe was 92, so it would have come out before this movie did, which obviously is another great, you know, movie with fucking Tony Todd just killing it, and that movie has a lot of black culture in it as well, being set, you know, in the project in Chicago and stuff like that. So obviously would be on the list for this month had we not seen it just last year, you know, and it's like we're trying to kind of build the repertoire a bit. But all right, we'll go ahead and get into our final thoughts. This movie is currently sitting. Wait, I won't say that until after you say your number. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, just so it doesn't influence your number at all.
Okay.
You know. So I'm gonna say the movie gets a thumbs up. I'm going to put this at I'm gonna say a solid 70. It's a great anthology. I am surprised at a lot of the effects. I think that effects wise, the only place that it really falls apart is at the end. Whenever like we pull out all the stops,
The CGI is
now we're in hell. And
barely CGI.
1995 CGI is rough. 1995 CGI on a $6 million budget is even more rough.
It's like a really fancy felt screen behind him.
I remember when everything changed and like we saw some like really goofy reactions from the actors who realized that they're now in hell, and I could tell from the moment that it happened. I was like, oh shit, all of this is done in CGI. So their direction was, hey guys, be scared. I need you to be real scared. We're gonna put it on film. And so they're just like, ah! And then when they're like burning, they're just like, ah! Oh, which is goofy and it takes away from the movie, but also at the same time, it's a fun part of it, and like it's part of just what it is. And sometimes movies are a product of their time, and that's just the way it is. So, solid thumbs up. I said 70, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 70%. That's what I thought I said. I didn't want to change it. I think it's a movie worth watching. I think it opens the door for what we're seeing now, and if nothing else, it helps me to be more aware and realize of just like kind of how much of a bummer it was that it took us so long to get something like Get Out. So we've looked at a few other horror movies that kind of fit this theme going forward throughout the month, and there's not a ton that are made between like this time and before Get Out. So like, you know, we've got like Bones that we talked about with Snoop Dogg, which I believe was 2001. He also did an anthology, which I think goes really over the top.
Oh my!
And I think it was only a couple years ago that it was made, maybe like 2014.
Okay.
So that might end up making the list.
That might.
I think it's called like Snoop Dogg's House of Horrors or something like
yes.
that. Which could be a lot of fun. But yeah, so thumbs up, solid 70 for me. I enjoy it. It's a good movie.
I will also give it a thumbs up. I've heard about it for a while. Just there, like you said, there aren't many movies in this particular genre.
Sure.
So you're aware of it. So thumbs up. I'd give it like, man, I don't want to copy you. I'd say like a 62%.
That's good.
So I think that it's really good, but I think most people I would recommend it to wouldn't like it.
That's true.
So I think that rating is based kind of on that.
Yeah. It is a tough movie to recommend. I get that.
Yeah.
Like even racking my brain, like you have to recommend it to a very specific type of movie watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you, it's so corny. If you like horror movies, you should watch it. But
yeah,
it's really good. Yet again, this is definitely one that's fun to watch with people.
Yes.
I know we say that about every movie because it's true, but the
or
anthology,
maybe just we're really fun, so maybe you should just come watch movies with
That's
us because
true.
we're so much fun to watch movies with.
Slide in our DMs and we'll see. But no, I liked it. You should see it probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that, oh shit, I had a really good talking point, and then I got into you should come watch movies with us instead. I lost it. I'm doing it live. That's what happens sometimes. Yeah, it's one of those that I think I was just saying that it was hard to recommend because it can be difficult to watch, and like you have to be in a place where you're allowing yourself to see some of these things that get really heavy and they get really dark and they can be very, very tough to watch. I think something like this is, and maybe it's because we're American or whatever the case may be, I think that these things are harder to watch than, say, what was Martyrs.
Yeah.
Like that movie Martyrs,
straight up
everyone told us
gore,
it was just like so fucking intense and all this stuff, and like I put off watching it for years. You had heard about it,
Yeah.
and you kind of were like, that doesn't sound like
I
something
don't
I'd
feel
ever
like I
want to
wanna
watch.
watch it.
Exactly, and then we finally got around to watching it, and like, yeah, it was gory,
Yeah.
but like, this was harder to watch
Yeah.
because it's so much more real.
Yeah.
And that was the point that I was going to bring up. A lot of times,
We nailed it.
I got it. A lot of times, whenever we see things like this, and we're probably going to see this as a recurring theme with movies that are primarily starring African American or Black actors and actresses, or that are made by African American or Black filmmakers, is that the things that maybe are portrayed as being scary are a little different. And that's like the power behind Tales from the Hood as a movie, is like every single short, the thing that's scary is not this. It's not Freddy Krueger. Like it's something that's
It's
so
your
much.
dad.
Exactly.
Right to it, you know.
Exactly. It's your dad. It's the police. It's things like that. And like,
It's the people who should be protecting you.
yeah. Yeah. And like that's really scary shit.
Yeah.
And so like I think that like that I imagine that will continue to be a recurring theme. I'm saying that just from, my experience of watching some of these movies, and another great example, even though it's, from Wes Craven, who's obviously not a person of color, but like he'd kind of dabbled into this genre in the 90s as well with People Under the Stairs.
Yeah.
And he also did Vampire in Brooklyn, which wasn't great, but People on the Stairs is really good.
Yeah.
So I forgive him for Vampire in Brooklyn because People on the Stairs is great. You know, and some of the things are similar. Some of the broken home life and some of those things with, you know, and People Under the Stairs with Fool, and, you know, he's the whole reason he gets put into this horrific situation is because he's trying to get money to help his mom pay the rent. Like, just things like that are just real life horror things. And so I actually got into this too in, actually I never thought, I don't think I ever actually got to say it. So I had an interesting kind of upbringing where, like, I just have a really kind of fucked up family, and any of my family who might listen, I'm sorry, but we're not super put together. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, here's your wake up call. One of my uncles stabbed the other uncle, and they both got arrested on my birthday. Like things like that have happened. But I kind of grew up in a more kind of like we were kind of like a middle class, but like lower middle class type family, and like we just had some of these things I recognize, and I do like that was just something for me growing up. So in the Twilight Zone series, there's I think it's like the second or third episode that centers a lot around like a police officer and like how that is imposing and scary to some people. And like to this day, like my initial gut reaction around police officers is that they are the enemy because of the way that I was brought up. And like obviously I am as white as you can fucking get, but like that was my family. And then that's like, I mean, it wasn't my dad directly, but like my aunts and uncles and like just the life that they lived. Like the police officer wasn't there to protect me. The police officer was there to take my uncle to jail. Like, and I grew up that way, and like it still affects me to this day. And so like I can kind of on a very, very low level relate to just those baseline level fears. And I think that this movie just portrays them really well. It obviously, people may say that it goes over the top at times, but you have to, and that's just where it is. So do you do some math, because I can't even add up years, and how am I supposed to average a 70 and a 62? What's that, like a 66 point something?
It's a 66.
There you go. I'm really bad.
66.
Really bad with numbers. So 2 thumbs up, 66%. And yeah, I mean, but anything else?
No.
Cool. If you haven't watched Tales from the Hood, you should watch it, but maybe that's just me. I am James, and this guy over here is
Josh.
And we're just saying, thanks for stopping in.